Hi, and welcome to Community Bible Church Online. We're so glad you decided to join us today. Our mission here at Community Bible Church is to make sacrificial, authentic followers of Christ who intentionally make Him known. If you're in the Canal Fulton area on Sundays, we would love to meet you in person at 9 a.m. or 10:45. Thanks for joining, and let's get into today's message.
We are excited you're with us. Welcome to Sunday. Baptism Sunday, this is awesome. I don't know what this is all about, but I love it. Great to see all you guys. Thanks for being here. Yeah, good to see you. All right. Shout out to you. You're welcome. She loves that. Hey, thank you so much for being here this morning. We are going to be in Exodus chapter 32. We have been in the book of Exodus for a long time. Many of you guys probably feel like the Israelites, where it's like, are we done? Are we out of this desert yet? No, we have more to go. So we are in Exodus chapter 32. Got two more chapters, well, a couple more chapters to go. And we'll cover that in 2 weeks after this, but we're almost there. We've almost made it. But here's what I love about Exodus that we just saw in the video, and that is this. That Exodus, we think it's all about the Israelites and escape out of Egypt. Reality is, Exodus is about God's desire to call all of us close, and we see it from the beginning of Exodus to the end of Exodus. God has consistently, every single time, told the Israelite people, the people in this book, come on close, come on close. And every step of the way, the Israelites are like, yes, we are fully in. Not really. We don't want to come close. We'd rather worship you from a distance and not really know you personally. Thank you very much, because if you get to know me personally, things get a little weird, right? Now, this may be true of you in general, right? Some of you may have that kind of personality as well. You can know me from a distance, but don't really get to know me, because if you really get to know me, some of you are like, I don't even know what's in there. Like, I don't even know, like, if you were to get to know me personally, what that would even bring out. But some of us are a little nervous to do that. Well, this morning, we're going to talk about this idea of kind of what is in us and some of those things that kind of hold us back. We're going to talk about a thing called vows today, and the vows that we kind of make to ourselves and that we kind of live through. And you're going to see that played out in a guy named Aaron today, and some of the things that he believed about God, some of the things he believed about himself, and how those, if they're not right, they tend to really kind of mess us up in the long run. And I think if you're with us this morning and you're kind of new to Exodus, I would say the biggest things to grab out of the sermon this morning is simply this, that God is always trying to get us to relate to Him personally, and He's always trying to remind us that He is a God who's trying to change us from the inside out and not from the outside in. It's not about our actions and all those things that we do. It's really about our heart transformation on the inside. And man, if we're just real honest, if I'm honest with the pastor, that sounded weird, right? If the pastor's honest today, if I'm honest with you guys, can I just say, like, it's a gradual process, and even I feel like I have so much to grow in about really knowing Christ well and really knowing myself well in the same time. So this morning, I'm going to give you an overview of where we're going to talk about, and then we're going to kind of dive into Exodus chapter 32. Before we jump into 32, though, let me give you a broad just look at 32, that actually King David in the Psalms gives us a broad overview of this particular story. In Psalm 106, beginning in verses 1 to 3, he says, "Praise the Lord, oh give thanks to the Lord, for He is good, for His steadfast love endures forever." That's going to be key. God doesn't give up on us. You're going to hear about it in the story. You're going to hear about it in the baptisms in a little bit. God doesn't give up on us. Who can utter the mighty deeds of the Lord or declare His praise? Blessed are they who observe justice, who do righteousness at all times. Justice is going to be a big story today as well. Psalm 106, he says, here is what happened. Psalm 106, 19 to 24 says, "They made a calf in Hebron, or Horeb, and worshipped a metal image. They exchanged the glory of God for the image of an ox that eats grass." That's big. "They forgot God, their Savior, who had done great things in Egypt, wondrous works in the land of Ham, and awesome deeds by the Red Sea. Therefore, He said He would destroy them, had not Moses, His chosen one, stood in the breach before Him to turn away God's wrath from destroying them. Then they despised the pleasant land, having no faith in its promise." Verse 44, "Nevertheless," that's the key word in all this, "nevertheless, God, He looked at their distress when He heard their cry. For their sake, he remembered his covenant and relented according to the abundance of his steadfast love. That is what we're going to see this morning in the midst of a crazy story. So let's remember where we're at. Let's kind of walk through the story about how we got to where we are and kind of paint the picture of where we're at. So there was a bunch of people called the Israelites. And they were gathered in Egypt because they were taken as a result of war, and they were taken into slavery into Egypt. They had lived in slavery for hundreds of years, right? They were there for a long time. And as they were in Egypt, God said, I'm going to bring you out. So God decided to bring in a guy named Moses, and he meets Moses on this mountaintop, actually same mountaintop, and says, you're going to deliver my people. Probably a familiar story to many of us. He delivers the people out of Egypt. He comes out of Egypt, and God says, I want you to follow me. And he says, I want you to follow me through a pillar of fire and a pillar of smoke. I'm going to lead you to the first place where you're going to come close. And the first place he tells them to come close is Mount Sinai, this mountain. And we saw that a couple weeks ago. And we saw how God had led them to the base of this mountain. And at the base of this mountain, God had done some incredible things at the base of this mountain. So as they're camped, God has already called Moses once to say, here's the 10 commandments. The top 10, you probably all know. You shall have no other gods before me. Don't make any graven images. Thou shalt not commit adultery. But isn't it funny how the 10 commandments, like there's no other part of Scripture you've memorized with thou and these, but the 10 commandments, they just sound like they should have thous. Thou shalt not, right? You're like, no, nobody speaks like that, but it just seems like the 10 commandments bring that out of us. But he gets all these 10 commandments, all these covenants, and they said, we're going to follow you no matter what, right? So they're at the base of this mountain. Now, here's what I want you to understand. At the base of the mountain, if you lived in that camp, every single morning you woke up, God had promised to give you two things. He promised to give you manna, which is bread, and it was sweet bread. It wasn't like, it was like, think Texas Roadhouse and the cinnamon rolls. Like, oh man, I hope it was that good, right? It was like this, yeah, nobody? No? Okay, just me? Wow, all right. Judgmental, right? All right. We'll talk about that later. But it is a sweet kind of bread that kind of came from heaven. And then he also gave them like the best of the best meat, like quail. Like he didn't give them raccoon. Where's Aaron? He didn't give them he didn't give them squirrel. He gave them quail. Like it was just beautiful meat to eat. And every single morning they went out, they'd have bread and they had food. Same thing that's going to happen in Exodus 32. I would guess they had that as their diet for that morning. Not only that, but God has said, I'm also going to give you water from a rock. And God says, if you need water, here it is. And he made it come from all places, a rock, not a stream, not an ocean, a rock. And they were drinking water directly from that. Every part of their substance was already taken care of, and it was there. Now, add on top of that, they had water for drinking. They had food to take care of them. They also had the commandments, right? And they said, we're in. And then they also had a group of leaders, 70 elders, and a guy named Aaron, who had already met with God, and they had been meeting with God, and they said they saw God from a distance, and they said God stood on this like sapphire floor. If you weren't here, Pastor Stephen said it's kind of like the luminescence of Minecraft. I don't know where that fits in. But anyway, he said it's just to think of that idea, and it's kind of this glowing foot floor that they got to see God and all these things. That's the elders. That's Aaron. They got to see these powerful things. Exodus 24, people are all in. They've signed a contract and said, God, whatever you want, we're in. And in that contract, there was an actual sprinkling of blood on the people of Israel. Different customs, different time, but they actually would, a couple of you guys were like, stick with me. There was blood involved in this because there was life in the blood, and they said, because of this, we're going to sprinkle you. This is a signed covenant. This is a signed agreement. So the best thing I can come up with is think of like your marriage vows, right? You've signed off, like it's been official. Or you've closed on a house, and you've got the contract and all the writing. You've signed off. I will do my part, you're going to do your part. And they sign off and they say, yes, we are going to do this. Signed contract. Add on top of that in Exodus 24, it says, the glory of God dwelt on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And on the seventh day, he called Moses out of the midst of the cloud. And now the appearance of the glory of the Lord was like a devouring fire on top of a mountain, get this, in sight of the people of Israel. Can you imagine that? Like, we were out west this summer, and we got to see all the mountain ranges, the Grand Tetons and other places. And you didn't have to look very far to find mountain tops, right? You just had to go, there it is, right? Everywhere you looked, it was like, there's another one. There's another one. Gorgeous, right? You didn't have to look far. The same with the Israelite people. They're at the base of a mountain. The only way they can not miss God is simply by doing this. But if they're going to find God, they simply have to look up because he was in their midst. And he says he was dwelling on this mountain. And it says, and Moses, in the same passage, was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. Here's where we get ourselves into trouble. He's up on the mountain for about a month, month and a half, and as he's up on this mountaintop, the Israelites down below start getting weirded out because it's a long time to go a month and a half without any real leadership. Because apparently, the guy that was left in charge, Aaron, is not really doing a good job of leading them in the month and a half that Moses has been gone. And that's where we pick up today. Make sense? Stick with me. All right, here we go. All of that happening, and we find ourselves here at Exodus 32. When the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, the people gathered themselves together to Aaron and said to him, "Up, make us gods who shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him." And so Aaron said to them, "Take off the rings of gold that are in your ears of your wives, your son, your daughters, and bring them to me." So all the people took off the rings and gold that were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. And he received the gold from their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool and made a golden calf. And they said, the leaders of Israel said, "These are our gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt." Let's just pause there just for a second, get our context. So what you see in this next section, they got all these things going for them. They're fed. They're cared for. God's right there dwelling with Moses. Moses is actually getting, at this point, the blueprints for the tabernacle, a place where God will dwell, hang out, be near his people, and not consume them with fire. That's crazy. That never happened. And God says, I'm going to dwell with my people, and Moses is getting that. And at the bottom of the mountain, what's happening is people are starting to lose it. And as they're starting to lose it, they say a couple things that are really offensive that I want you to hear this morning because we need to understand how offensive these really were. One, they say to Aaron, "Up." That's number one. Let's just stop there. How many of you, in the middle of a busy day, you've been doing something in the kitchen or you're getting ready to settle in for the night or whatever it is, and you have kids at the house, and all of a sudden they come to you in the middle of nowhere, and they say, "Hey," that's the starting point. Now, that could be enough trigger for some of you in the room to be like, "Nope, not my kid," because they'd be buried in the backyard. However, there may be some, they just say, "Hey," and they come to you, and it's very demanding. They say, "Make me a," and they, whatever it is. Or, "Hey, DoorDash me a," whatever, right? "Hey, give me your credit card because I need to go out," and it's just a very bold. Your first response is probably not godly. Your first response is probably like, "I'm sorry, excuse me, who are you? And whose house do you live in?" And there's the backyard, right? Because that's not a normal tone. And so that's the tone they take with Aaron. "Hey, Aaron, get up. Make us gods." That sounds easy, right? Like it's not just go DoorDash me something. This is like literally go make us a god. Okay, that's bold. That's offense number one. Who shall go before us? That's offense number two. Who have they had going before them this whole time? God of Israel in smoke and fire has walked before them every step of the way, and they're like, "We don't want that one. Make us a new one so we can leave this place and get out of here. Go make us one before us." And as for this Moses, that's a great term. As for this Moses guy, like they didn't even know him, right? I mean, we don't even know what's happened to him. Is he still around? Is he still relevant? It's been like a month, and I haven't seen him on social forever. Like, this guy is not even around. The man has brought us out of the land of Egypt. We don't know what has become of him. He's gone. Maybe he's dead. Maybe the fire, we don't know. Like maybe a goat got him. We don't know what happened. He's gone. That's offense number three. So Aaron said to them, "Hey, give me all your gold." Offense number four, right? As Moses is getting designs for the tabernacle, it's layered in gold. And Aaron has the gall to say, "Hey, give me all your gold. I'll make you a god. No problem. I got this. Take off all your rings and gold and give it to me." And then, if that's not enough, the other offense is, and the elders and the priests, The ones who should be leading them closer to God say to the people, "These are your gods, O Israel. You're welcome. We gave you gods." I don't know how you fashion a god, but I can only imagine gods up there like, they think that's a god. They think that thing that just, okay, all right. So that's offense number 5 or 6. We're making a list. And they brought you out of the land of Egypt. He says, not only are they your gods, hey, these are the gods that took you out of Egypt. Offense number 6, 7, right? They didn't take them anywhere. They just got formed out of a fire. They're not gods. They didn't take them anywhere. And yet this is where they find themselves. Fascinating. And now he goes into verse 5. When Aaron saw all of this, okay, he built an altar before it. Okay, what is happening? This isn't like just I've gods. Now we're going to worship them, and I'm going to build an altar before them. This is like saying, guys, follow me. I know the old God doesn't work anymore. I've got a brand new God. We're going to build an altar. It's going to be fantastic. They build an altar before them. Crazy. And they built an altar before it. And Aaron made a proclamation and said, tomorrow shall be a feast to the Lord. And they rose early the next day and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to party, to play. Now, this is where I got stuck in the study, because I got stuck on these two words, a burnt offering and peace offering. What on earth is a burnt offering and a peace offering? And as I was sitting there, I'm like, that has to be important. They wouldn't just throw those in. And it's really important. So what a burnt offering is simply an offering that God had put in place all the way back in Genesis. And it was the thing where you put the whole animal, whether it was a sheep or whatever, on the altar, and the whole thing was consumed. Every part of it was burned up. All the meat, all the entrails, all the extras, all the whatever, just burned up before God. And it was to symbolize all of me for all of you. That was the example. And the aroma would go up and the whole thing. Very different than a peace offering. But the burnt offering, let's just stay there for a second. Where else have I seen this? I was like, God, where else is this burnt offering mentioned? So just to kind of give you the importance of a burnt offering, the first time you read about the burnt offering is in a guy's name by the name of Noah. Sound familiar? And in Noah, in Genesis chapter 8, verse 20, he gives a burnt offering to the Lord. All of me for all of you. Big statement, big moment, flood, big moment. The next time we see it, Abraham and Isaac on a mountain where he says, I will give you a burnt offering. Big, significant moment. All of me for all of you, even if it costs me my own son. Third time we see it, Jethro and the elders in Exodus 18. Not that long ago, they have a burnt offering. All of me for all of you. And the elders are all part of this all of me for all of you. The 10 Commandments in Exodus chapter 20, 24 make mention that all of this is supposed to be in the law of how we're to worship God. A burnt offering was significantly important. And it was a big offense to say, all of me for all of you, little God that I made. That's a big, horrendous statement. Not only was it a burnt offering, it says he offered a peace offering. The peace offering, I think we need these more in our life because these were amazing. So you took the animal, you put it on the altar, and you burned it up, but you didn't burn all of it up. You actually burned the entrails and other things, and what you left was all of the good meat. And you took some of that meat, and some of it was set aside for God, but the rest of the meat that came out of all those sacrifices was for us. Good smoked barbecue, right? The whole thing. I'm not saying it was a barbecue. I'm just saying it was smoked meat that you could actually eat. And that was part of this burnt offering. Yes, it was for the God, but the rest was for you, and it was for you as a people to say, let's remember and have fellowship and party with one another and hang out together. And it was meant to be a reconciliation thing. So imagine the offense of all of me for all of you offering and fellowship offering. Let's have a party. And God's not invited. It's all this new God. This is horrendously, significantly offensive, if not even more so when you read Exodus 20 and the first 2 commandments. The first 2 lines of the contract says, you will have no other gods before me and not make graven images. They couldn't even get the first 2 lines of the contract right. They break the first two, and it's all going downhill from here. They already had this crazy meal. They've already had God taken care of them. And every step of the way, what we see in the first beginning of this chapter is they are throwing it back in God's face and saying, God, we don't care. You're taking too long. We're going to do our own thing. And what you're going to see in the life of Aaron, after we get through a couple more pieces, in the life of Aaron is you're going to see the reason and I think some of the rationale behind why Aaron is the way he is. And I think for most of us in this room, I think we could find ourselves in the same boat. Because I think what Aaron did is not just make a vow to God, I think he made a vow in and of himself that he would be a certain kind of person. Let me explain what I mean by that. When I say a vow, I'm not talking about marriage vows. I'm talking about vows that we live by on a regular basis. Me, you, all of us included. We live by certain vows, and you probably don't have them written down anywhere. You don't have them on the fridge. You don't have them anywhere in your car. These are not written down, but you live by them. And you do life through all of their lenses. A vow is a lens that we think, we plan, and we act on. A vow is what lives rent-free in all of us, and it's formed early. Let me just give you an example, because I don't have time to dive into all of it this morning, but we did a whole marriage workshop, and this was part of it. We're not talking about wedding vows. We're talking about vows we live by. So one of my vows that I live by, that is unintentional, that it just lives in my head all the time, and it's just there. One of those vows is this: I will never be a burden to anyone. That is not written down. I don't have it tattooed yet. I don't have it written down anywhere. I don't have it put anywhere. I just know that that lives in me, that I will not be a burden to anyone. So I will be productive, and if I'm not productive, it sinks my day and my week. If anybody asks how your week was, if it's not productive, I'll say it was a terrible week. And it's just this thing of I'll carry everybody's burdens, which in ministry as a pastor, it's even worse as a pastor when you say, I will never be a burden to anyone, because what that means is I'll put all of your burdens in my backpack and I'll carry it around for you. You're welcome. I've just got all of your problems, all of your issues, all the time we spent together, and I got them. And whenever you want to unpack them, I'll just pull them out of my backpack and we'll talk about them. But for you, I'll carry all of them. And then early on in ministry, I realized how unhealthy that was. Because then you never have to deal with your problems. You just get to put them in my backpack and I carry them, and I'm the burden carrier. Not only in ministry, I do that in my family. I did that forever. And what it leads to is some really unhealthy practices, such as people pleasing. I am a recovering people pleaser. I really am. I was really good at it. I did it all the time. My first couple years of ministry, people-pleasing was the way to go. I would white lie my way through many things because I didn't want to be seen as a failure or that I didn't let somebody down. If somebody needed something done, hey, Joel, could you? Absolutely. Later on in ministry, that even came true, where they're like, you are the pastor of etc. And they just give me everything on my plate. You just do. And I'm like, put it in the backpack, brother. Let's go. And I just lived it. And it was a lens that I lived through. And I don't know what your lenses are that you live through, but typically these lenses are powerful and compelling, but we never know what they are until we hit stress, until we hit moments of like, oh, there it is. So let me give you a definition. A vow is a powerful or compelling emotion or purpose, a strong affection for an object, person, or thing. It is something that we enthusiastically and intentionally pursue with great energy. And you never even think about it. These ruling passions can lie dormant over time and become activated in periods of stress, anxiety, weakness, or vulnerability. These are basically what we're going to call good passions turned to ultimate and even God-like status. These vows are so ingrained in us from young age that we'll be a certain person. We won't do these things, but we'll always do these things. And I don't know what yours are, but I'm going to guess you have them. And you probably haven't thought that much about them because nobody really brings this stuff up in public. Hey, how are your vows going? My marriage vows? That's awkward. No, like your personal vows. That's even more awkward. Like nobody talks about these, but they're important. They're the ruling passions that lay dormant that we live our life through. These are what Tim Keller would call even idols in our life. These are the fake cows, if you would, in our life. An idol is something that we look to for things that only God can give. An idol is anything more important to you than God, anything that absorbs your heart and imagination more than God, anything you seek to give you what only God can give you. An idol is whatever you look to and say in your heart of hearts, if only I had that, then I'll feel my life has meaning. Then I'll know I have value. I'll know I'm significant. I'll know I'm secure, as long as I live through that lens. So for instance, if I say I'm never going to be a burden on somebody, that word never is important. And I live it out every single day, and it becomes more important than what God has asked me to do. And what God's asked me to do in many of these situations is say, that's not yours to carry. It's never been yours to carry. You need to put that either on Him, on God, or on them. It's their burden. And you need to own your part of helping them with that burden, but you don't have to carry it for them. This happens in ministry. This happens in my family. It's just something that's there. I don't know what yours are, but let me give you some help. These are a list of things that are possible vows for you, that I live through these kind of vows. I will always or I will never need affirmation. Some of you, maybe that's yours. I desperately need affirmation in all the things that I do, and I run through that lens. Some of you, it's avoiding conflict. I will never be in a conflicting situation. I will live my life avoiding conflict at all cost. You don't write that down. It's not anywhere in your radar, but you live it. Some of it's being the expert in the room. It's like, I will always be right. And you've never really put it out in words, but you've seen it in every interaction that you've been in. And when you're not right, it hits you harder than anybody else. Some of us cannot be right, and we're like, whatever. Some of you, if you're not right, it just crushes you at your very soul. Like, it's just like, right? It's comfort, it's confidence, it's never being vulnerable. I will always be loved. I will always be beautiful. I will always have beauty as my thing, and I'll make that every bit of my thoughts and feelings go through that. I will avoid rejection at all costs. I will have adventure at all costs. That sounds great until adventure at all costs gets in the way of God Himself. I will have power or control, sexual satisfaction, security, pleasure, avoiding pain. I don't know what those vows are, but they all stem from things within us that we vowed to live our life through that lens. Why do I go to vows, and why is that so important? It's important because I think this is what Aaron was doing even at the base of this mountain. I think he had some vows that he was living out. Moses had vows that he lived through, and his were justice. Justice at all cost. Like, if you watch Moses' life, it's about justice. Even in the Egyptian that he buried in the sand in Egypt, that was justice. He earned it. He had to pay for it, right? Aaron's, I think, are too. I think Aaron had, my vow is of Aaron's, I will be respected at all costs. That's a dangerous vow. I will be respected at all costs. I will not let people take advantage of me. That will not happen in my life. And Aaron, I think there's something in him, and you'll see it later in stories we're not going to get into today, where that comes out. He has arguments. His sons don't fare well because of this idea of being respected. I will be liked and or admired. I think that's huge in Aaron's life. That's why he says, sure, I'll make you gods. And he follows this vow. Vows make us say and do really stupid things, though. They really don't function well. Let's kind of jump into the story again. So basically what we see from verse 6 all the way into later is that Moses has a meeting with God. As this is going on, they form their gods. Moses meets with God, and God says, I'm going to take them all out. Moses, I'm done with them. This word burning hot is used a lot in this text. And he says, I'm taking them all out. And Moses is like, hey, don't take them all out. Remember your covenant. You promised to be with him. You promised to be steadfast. Don't take them out. And God says, okay, I'll relent because of you and because of my covenant, but I'm telling you, this is a serious offense. So Moses then comes down the mountain after basically pleading for their life at the top of the mountain with God, and he comes back down, and here we pick up in verse 15. Then Moses turned and went down from the mountain with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hand. These are the tablets, 10 commandments. Were written on both sides, front and back. The tablets were the work of God, and the writing was the writing of God. How cool is that, right? Like, many people complain about their handwriting. What was God's handwriting like? That'd just be interesting. I would love to know. They were written with the hand of God. Like, that's pretty impressive. Like, to sign an agreement and it's like God signed it. Like, that's a big contract. And gave them the tablets. When Joshua heard the noise of the people and they shouted, he said to Moses, there is a noise of war in the camp. You can't take the commander out of Joshua. Joshua is a commander. He is a military guy by trade, and he is going to lead an army and all this thing. He is the commander of commanders. He hears a noise, and he instantly goes into like military mode. He's like, whoa, 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 something's happening. We're at war. You can almost see him like gathering all of the arsenal and everything he needs to go to war. And then he's walking down the mountain. He says, wait a second, that's not war. It's not victory. It's not defeat. That's singing. Now, I don't know if you've served before, but I'm going to guess on the battlefield, when you walk into a battlefield, there's not much singing going on, right? That's not a normal term. Hey, guys, let's just all sing a song together, shall we? Like, that's going to get you kicked out real quick, right? Nobody's going to want to hang with you. They're going to be like, I'm going to find another place to go. You hang out over here where all the people are with all the guns and just see how that goes. You sing your song over there. That's just not a normal response. But there's singing happening at the bottom of this camp. As soon as he came near the camp and he saw the calf and the dancing, Moses' anger burns hot. And he threw the tablets of his hands and broke them at the foot of the mountain. He takes the 10 Commandments written by God, and he doesn't have a hissy fit. He doesn't have an anger moment where he throws them down and just, I'm over you. I think he throws them down because this is the visual representation of you've broken the contract. This is like somebody taking a house contract and ripping it up in front of you, right? This is him. You've broken the contract you said you were going to live by. And he throws it at the feet of the people at the base of the mountain. And he took the calf that they had made, and he burned it with fire and ground it to powder and scattered it on the water and made the people drink it. Do you think Moses had a justice problem? Y'all want a God? Here's your God. Drink it. Like, that's the tone. Like, this isn't soft. This is burning hot. This is gold powder. That can't go well for anybody. You want a God? Drink it in. This is all yours. Now, imagine the fact that their water is from a rock that came from God, even more. Anyway, there's layers to this. Tiramisu. And so this morning, this idea of like, how do we understand this? This is a significant, offensive moment. And Moses said to Aaron, here's my one line that is so important in this chapter. You ready? If you get nothing else, this is important. Here we go. What did this people do to you that you have brought such a great sin upon them? This is Moses' response to Aaron. Aaron, why do you hate these people so much? Aaron, what sin could they possibly have done to make you put them before a holy God, knowing he's going to devour them with fire? What vow have you lived in so long, Aaron, that you thought this was the best idea? He's talking to the heart of a pastor here. He's talking to the priest. You're supposed to shepherd these people. You're supposed to care for them. You can have some rough weeks in ministry, trust me. But at no point is it ever okay. These people are just such a burden. God, just consume them all. Nobody wants that. That's not a healthy pastor. But Aaron says that is what, Moses is saying, Aaron, that's what you've done. You've set them before a holy God, and he's going to consume them. And Aaron said, you ready? Here we go. And Aaron said, let not the anger of my Lord burn hot. You know the people, that they are set on evil. Now, I don't know if there's DVR in heaven. I hope there is. I hope this moment was there. And I really hope that Aaron had to say that in front of all the people. He's standing in the middle, and he's like, hey, what's your problem? And Aaron's like, these people are evil. You know it. That guy's evil, and that guy, and look at her. They're all evil. They're all messed up people. That's the problem, Moses. Can you imagine being around there? That's your pastor? And they're like, what? Not my problem. That's all them. Vows make us do stupid things. I'm just going to say it again. For they said to me, verse 23, make us gods who shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out, okay, let's give him some benefit of the doubt. Ready? Here we go. For they said to me, make us gods who shall go before us. Yep, that's what they did. As for this Moses, the man who brought us out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has happened, or what has become of him. Yep, they said that. So I said to them, let any of you have gold, take it off. Yep, did that. True, absolutely. And so they gave it to me. Absolutely true. You said to give it. You're the priest. They gave it. And I threw it in the fire. Absolutely. You're going good. Confession is good for the soul, Aaron. This is going well. I threw it in the fire, and out came this calf. It was crazy. You had to be there. I threw it in, and this cow just kind of went. It was crazy. It had horns. It was glowing. It was on fire. It just popped right out of the fire. You wouldn't believe it. Remember when he hit that rock? Nothing like that. This was so much cooler. You had to see this calf. It just literally came out. You were doing so well, Aaron. To all the people, again, I hope this is on DVR. I hope all the people around were like, out popped a calf? That's your excuse? Are you kidding me? Nobody's going to believe that. Out came a calf. Not true. But I'm telling you, isn't it true? Vows that we make, the things we believe, can make us believe and do really stupid things on a regular basis. The backpack and the burdens and all that stuff, it made me do some really dumb things. Still can make me do some really dumb things. Because vows don't help us. It's only God. And so out popped a calf. And because of all of these things, the rest of the chapter shares in detail what happens to those who come against a holy God. And I'm going to give you the cliff notes. Basically, what happens from here is Moses offers repentance to the people. And he says, hey, I don't know what to tell you about Aaron. And he's my brother, I get it. But, siblings, they're weird, right? So I don't know what to tell you about him. Let's just forget about the whole cow popping out thing. Let's just push that aside. I'll deal with Aaron later. But for the rest of all you, can you just know, if you come back to repentance, if you come close to God, he will come close to you. And he offers them a chance to come clean. He offers them a chance of forgiveness. And a large portion of them do. However, there is a significantly small portion of them, 3,000 of them, that say, we do not want to come back. We will not come back. Your God is not our God. And not only will we not come back, Moses, we will fight you every step of the way to prove your God doesn't live, and this cow is what we follow from here on out. And the result of that is they end up losing their lives because of their rebellion. It's a terrible, significant part of the Bible. And for those who have a hard time in the Old Testament, this is why you have a hard time in the Old Testament, because you read passages like this and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Where's the grace? Well, the grace was come near. The grace was respond in repentance. The grace was, I'm not going to make you live up to your end of the contract that you signed in blood. The hard part is there are still some that are rebellious in nature and say, we will not follow this. And so he ends up having to kill 3,000 men fell that day because they would not come back. I love that Moses, even in this, says, verse 30, the next day Moses said to the people, you have sinned a great sin, and now I will go up to the Lord. Perhaps I can make atonement for your sin. Maybe we can make this right. Maybe we can fall on God and his mercy and it'll be fine. Do you see that Moses had to take the place of Aaron? That was supposed to be Aaron's job. Aaron forfeited that job. Now Moses has to make atonement for their sins, and this is where we find ourselves. Verse 32 and 33, but now if you will forgive their sin, but if not, please blot me out of the book that you have written. But the Lord said to Moses, whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book. We don't have time to get into this whole book of life thing, which took me down a really long rabbit trail this week. A lot of different places. Book of life is a fascinating part of the story we don't have time to get into today. But let me just give it what he's saying here. What Moses is saying is this: God, I'm going to put my life in the place of all their lives. Take mine. Even if it costs me eternity with you. That's a leader. A leader who's willing to lay down his life and say, these people are crazy, but I love them. I'm going to lay down my life for them. And God's response to Moses was simply this: Moses, you don't get to choose whose blood covers whose. Moses, your blood ain't powerful enough to cover all of their stuff. I got another one coming. And he's going to take care of that. But you can't do it. But instead, there is grace given, and the people survive this crazy ordeal. But here's what I want you to hear as we close this morning. These vows can take us into very bad places, and they can take us into things we start to believe lies. The way you combat that is simply knowing what Moses just found out, and that is there is somebody beyond you that can do what you cannot do. There's a man, God named Jesus, who said, my blood for all of theirs. My contract, I'll keep my end of the bargain. I will take all of their sin, all the stuff they mess up with, all those lies that they tell, all the promises they don't keep towards me. I'm going to take all of that on myself. God, I will own all of that. Put all of that on me. And I will absorb all of their sin, all of their stupidity, all the ridiculousness, and I will love them, and I will stand in their place so that when you see them, you will see me standing in their place. And your story and my story, if you've surrendered your life to Jesus, is simply that. We have nothing to offer. We have nothing to bring. We just simply get to stand in the confidence of just Jesus, and Jesus alone is all we'll ever have to stake our lives on. If somebody were to ask you, what are you banking on for heaven? If your answer isn't Jesus and Jesus alone because I'm a messed up person, you've got the wrong answer. If it's, I think I did enough good works, I didn't do enough bad things, and I'm going to, hopefully the scales kind of tip to my favor. That's not Jesus. That's religion. That's not Jesus. Jesus is, I've stood in your place and I've taken every ounce of sin and stupidity and put it on myself, and I will carry it because I'm the only one who can. And you find your worth and your value in me and not in your vows and not in your gods, but in me and me alone. And I'm telling you, that's how we live an abundant life. That's how we live a life on purpose. That's how we have celebration of what we're going to see in a second of baptisms. That's people who have said, Jesus and Jesus alone is all I've got. If you look at my life, nothing's going to point you as close as it is to what Jesus actually is. And baptism is simply a reminder of what has happened on the inside of me I'm making public. It's simply a reminder that you, Jesus, are all that we have. So this morning, I'm going to bring the team up. We're going to give you a chance to kind of respond this morning to Exodus chapter 32, because here's what I know about you and I know about me and I know about these ideas of vows. Vows will always come in the form of always and never. And I don't know what yours are, but I want to give you some time to kind of think and pray about what those may be. Maybe even write them down for yourself, because that may be helpful. But here's the thing. When I say I will never be a burden, that's impossible. And that's ridiculous. But I live it. For some of you, it may be, I will always be correct. I will always be right. And you would probably, unfortunately, find yourself in the Israelite people who are called stiff-necked people. You're like, I'm not stiff-necked. Well, that statement alone may kind of lead you down that path. I'm never going to disappoint anyone. Ever lived through that one? I will never be a disappointment to anyone. Try and put that on your back and carry that for a week. I will always be attractive. I will always be the center of the room. Whatever it is, I don't know what your vows are, but we all make them. And what God is telling us in this passage and beyond is put them down. Lay them down. They're not for you to carry. All you need is Jesus. All other ones are fake. They're like cows walking around that just have no purpose at all. I love that the psalm says it's like a cow that eats grass, for crying out loud. That's what you're worshiping? It's God, it's Jesus, it's Him and Him alone. Let me do this. I'm going to close in prayer. We're going to go into some worship. And during this song, it's a new song, we're going to give you a chance to kind of just sit where you are, allow you to kind of process some of what has been said. It's a lot. I threw a lot at you. But here's what I would ask that you do in this next 2 or 3 minutes. That's all we're going to do, okay? Next couple minutes together. Is simply ask, God, what vows am I living through that are taking the life out of me that I need you at the center of? And as you identify those, as He brings those to your mind, this would be in a morning just to lay them out and say, God, take them out. I don't want to live by them anymore. I'm done. And this could be that moment for that. There's not going to be like an altar call or calling you forward. This is simply an opportunity for you to worship, spend time with Him. If you need the front, these steps would be open to pray on if you need to do that. But this is your time. Chance to respond to what God's saying. We're going to lead us from here.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope that today's message helps you to follow Jesus and make Him known to those around you. Again, we would love to see you in person on Sundays at either 9 a.m. or 10:45. We hope to see you soon and have a great week.